Greetings and welcome to Saint of the Week, the show where we choose one saint's feast day from this week and discuss their life and their impact on the church. The saint for this week is St Peter Damian, whose feast day is February 21st, this Wednesday.
Peter was born around the year 1007 in Ravenna, Italy, to noble but poor parents who died when he was still young. He was adopted by his older brother, who abused him and neglected him while employing him as a swineherd. After a few years, Peter's other brother, Damian, the archpriest of Ravenna, took pity on him and took him away to be educated. It is believed that it was out of gratitude to his brother's kindness that Peter adopted the surname Damian.
Peter was intellectually gifted and made great progress at school, studying theology and canon law, first at Ravenna and then in Faenza, and finally at the University of Parma. He quickly became an accomplished professor despite his young age, already becoming well known when he was only 25 years old. Peter was not only intelligent, but also holy, imposing rigorous fasts on himself and wearing a hair shirt under his clothes. He was very generous, giving alms frequently and often dining with poor individuals.
It was this holiness that led Peter to abandon his secular life and become a monk. In 1035, he entered the isolated Benedictine hermitage of Fonte Avellana, near Gubbio. Both as a novice and as a brother, Peter showed incredible levels of holy fervor, but he spent so much time in prayer that it affected his health, and he developed severe insomnia. He managed to recover from it, however, and he was then appointed to lecture and teach his fellow monks.
Peter's piety and intellect led the other monks to unanimously elect him as successor should the current abbot die. Peter did not want to accept this position, but it was imposed on him as a matter of obedience. In 1043, the abbot did pass away, and Peter took on the position, which he held until his death. As abbot, he founded 5 other hermitages and encouraged a spirit of solitude, charity, and humility in his monks.
Peter was perfectly content in the seclusion of the cloister, but he was very aware of current church issues and would leave his solitude when necessary to act against heresy. In 1057, Pope Stephen IX finally demanded that Peter leave his hermitage for good and become the cardinal bishop of Ostia. Peter resisted this offer for a long time, but he was finally forced to accept, and he was consecrated on November 30th, 1057, with the additional responsibility of administrator of the Diocese of Gubbio.
Despite his constant resistance to administrative positions, Peter was undoubtedly good at them, and his office of cardinal was no exception. He exhorted his fellow cardinals to be a good example to others and fought vigorously against the anti-pope, Benedict X, when the church fell into schism. In the end, however, the anti-pope supporters were stronger, and Peter temporarily retired back to his hermitage at Fonte Avellana.
He did not remain for long, however, and about the end of the year 1059, Peter was sent by Pope Nicholas II to Milan as a legate. The church in Milan was in a terrible state, and the opposition between the corrupt clergy and the reformers had become so great that Rome was asked to settle it. Peter confronted the rioters in the cathedral and asserted the authority of Rome to such great effect that all involved parties submitted themselves to his decision. Peter worked out a fair solution to the problem, but upheaval occurred again after Nicholas II's death, and the issues in Milan's church were not resolved until 1066.
Meanwhile, Peter begged to be released from his position and returned to the cloister, but to no avail. Remaining as cardinal and papal legate, he served as a great assistant to Pope Alexander II in his struggle against the anti-pope Honorius II. He was finally allowed to resign in 1067, but this was only for a short while, as he was called to be papal legate again in 1069. This time to Germany. He there resolved a problem between Emperor Henry IV and his wife, and then returned to his home.
Early in either the year 1072 or 1073, Peter was sent to Ravenna to reconcile its inhabitants to the Holy See after they had been excommunicated for supporting schism. He once again resolved the issue, but on his return back home he fell ill with a fever near Faenza. He lay sick for a week at a local monastery and then passed away on February 22nd. His body was moved 6 times over the years, but currently rests in a chapel dedicated to him in the Cathedral of Faenza. He is the patron saint of free runners.
Peter Damian's life demonstrates the truth that when we follow Christ we must give our all. He was both a prayerful hermit and a fearless reformer. And no matter where he was called to be, he did his job with dedication and no complaint. He was a gifted preacher and was prolific in his writings, the majority of which are still available today. He is honored not only as a saint, but also as a doctor of the Church, and his life and legacy inspires us to both pray and to action. St. Peter Damian, pray for us.
Our honorable mentions for this week are St. Flavian of Constantinople, St. Barbatus of Benevento, St. Wulrich, Blessed Stefan Vincenti Felikovsky, St. Serenus the Gardener, and St. John Thuristus. And of course, there are thousands of other saints who undoubtedly have their feast days this week, but there are so many of them that there is no way we could list them all here.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Saint of the Week. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Peace be to you.